expect. He's called ADIB SAANI. He's the executive director of JATIKAY Center for Peace and Building. Mr. Adib, you are welcome onto the program.
My pleasure.
I'm so sorry I have to take you from the family. Mr. Adib, have you heard about what is happening in BAWKU between the Kusasis and then the Mamprusis? Can you tell me what is really happening over there?
Well, the whole thing is hinged on the histories of the two tribes, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's a very long, winding, quite an interesting history from the two sides. And when you look at it critically, it looks like everybody is right, but it sure depends on where either of them starts the history from.
Okay.
As a result, there seems to be a conflict between the two over who is the legitimate owner of that land.
Okay.
Okay, so unlike the Dagombes who had a conflict over chieftaincy between two gates within the same tribe, this is about two different tribes claiming ownership over the same place.
Okay.
As a result, theirs is much more complex and volatile, and also much more disastrous than even the Dagombes. As a result, to date, they are fighting over the same issue they started fighting over even during the colonial times.
Honestly, information I'm picking from BAWKU right now is that this situation has been going on since 1935. And I am so surprised that up to now, government has not been able to solve this conflict. Why is this so?
Well, unfortunately, instead of politics helping us to deal with it, rather politics complicates it. Because any government that comes, there's a different set of rules it comes with. So, for example, during the Nkrumah era, one tribe was at the helm of affairs. Then when Nkrumah was overthrown, the new government decided to give it to the other side because the existing side was deemed to be a supporter of Nkrumah. All right, that is even way after the colonialists also decided to, make one of the sides the legitimate ruler of that area. Then there were a series of committees that was put together to look into it. Then Rawlings came with Article 75 that made the Kusasis the legitimate. In fact, they took over. Then in 2003, the Mamprusis decided to take the matter to the Supreme Court. Then, according to the Mamprusis, the 1992 Constitution had repealed the Article 75 that gave legitimacy to the Kusasis. And so there was no need for them to continue with the court and decided to withdraw. Then the court slapped a penalty on them and said, hey, you are not to return again. And the Kusasis, on the other hand, say, okay, well, the court upheld our authority to govern because there was a judgment and it's in our favor. And the Mamprusis are contending that there was no judgment. Where's the judgment? And the Kusasis are saying, but you withdrew. So obviously the status quo takes precedence. So it's a very intertwined, complex matter. As a result, governments come and go, and what they usually do is to manage it, leave for the next government to come and carry the burden. Because to be able to solve this, it will demand a lot of assertiveness.
Okay.
on the part of that government, and and decisiveness, I must say. But nobody is willing to risk. So we keep managing it. The people keep killing themselves, unfortunately. And some criminal elements are taking advantage of it. And there's also the danger of terrorists using the conflict to come into the country, establish a foothold, and that might pose even a bigger national security threat to the nation.
So, by the books, by the history, let's lay aside politics and then this. By the books, who are the owners of that land?
My brother, it is extremely difficult to tell because everybody has. You get me? The Mampusi say they were there before the Kusasis came. And so even the name BAWKU is Valley, and it's in Mamproli. Okay. And the Kusasis said, no, we were here. The Mampusis are settlers because they came in and even helped us ward off aggressors. Okay? So they are not supposed to rule over us. Besides, all the other chiefs, from Garu to Timpani to, Pusiga, Binduri, etc., all of them are governed by Kusasi chiefs. So how can you come and reign over Kusasi, chiefdom? So the thing is, if you listen to the both sides, you see that they have very, beautiful history. And it will be almost difficult for you to tell this one owns the land or this one doesn't own. It's very similar to the Palestinian crisis.
Right.
The Palestinians said they own the place. The Jews came after, World War II and all that. It was a present given to the Jews by the British and the French and blah, blah, blah. And the Jews said, no, that is our promised land because we were there even before you came and we left and we are back to the promised land. All right. So depending on where either side starts its history, it is right. So it is safe to say that both of them are right.
So do you think that government can't use their political affiliation to bring a lasting solution to this age-old tribal conflict?
Okay, so before I'll be able to answer that question. The question, what I would seek to answer is what is the lasting solution? Then we situate it to government and see the possibility of government addressing it through the lasting solutions I'm about to propose. Okay, first of all, why are they fighting? I heard the defense minister say in Parliament about 2 weeks ago that this is not about chieftaincy, it's criminals, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's about chieftaincy. Because they are fighting over who is supposed to be the legitimate ruler of that area. So by recognizing this, the main issue is the sticking point is the issue of chieftaincy. Okay. 2, criminal elements, no doubt, have taken advantage of what is going on there to enhance their criminal enterprise through the trafficking of weapons. As a result, the places are washed with high caliber weapons. They are engaged in human trafficking.
What kind of weapons are we looking at?
Okay.
What kind of
All right. So now the AK-47 rifles, and now they use the M16. Okay. Just about a week ago, I was speaking with someone on the ground who told me that now wielding an AK-47 rifle is like going to a gun site with a knife. They've graduated beyond AK-47. All right. There's talk about the influx of RPGs and other then grenades, and other military hardware. Indeed, I have friends on the ground who are military personnel who tell me that sometimes they hear the sound of certain gunfire that makes them shiver because they wonder what type of weapon that is. Very high. And the defense minister also said that, look, these are military grade weapons, very powerful, and they get it from the neighboring countries. And a lot of those guys using these weapons are small boys, teenagers, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. The oldest you see amongst them is 30 years, okay? And there was this talk about a young guy, teenager, who exchanged fire with the military in the street. And the military, they were able to shoot him in the right arm, which is his stronger arm. And he was able to conveniently transfer the rifle to the left and still engage them, kill the war. Paying all the courtesies and all that to him, then going to the man prisons, paying the same courtesies. So, I mean, does it make sense? Okay, you say one thing and you do the other thing. So government needs to really be decisive about this and be willing to buy the bullet, because it's going to make government really unpopular in that area if they decide that, hey, we recognize this side and we're going to enforce it to the latter. All right. Then we have the long-term one. You see, the issue in BAWKU goes beyond tribal sentiments and all that. It is about human insecurities as well.
Right.
A lot of young people in the area are unemployed. There's so much illiteracy. They hold the weapons, exchange fire with one another without understanding why they are even fighting in the first place. You ask them, then they tell you, my father said the other side is our enemy, or the other side kills my great-grandfather or my great-grand-uncle. And that is it. So access to education is key. Access to basic necessities of life, food, water, sanitation, shelter, etc. Especially opportunities for young people who are largely unemployed and sit under trees to talk the whole day, and they have guns on them. And that brings us to the other issue, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. We need to stop the inflow. We need to clear the system of these weapons, because that is what gives them the motivation to fight. And it also leads us to another issue, conflict profiteers. Those persons who benefit from the status quo politically, financially. We need to stop them because they are financing the whole thing. Okay, so when we stop these finances, when we chokehold it, I'm pretty sure the combatants on the ground will not have anything to use to fight. And it is worth noting that most of the commands they get is from outside BAWKU. So when they get instruction, look, we have our operation tonight, it's coming from outside BAWKU, probably even outside Ghana. Okay, so we need to stop all of this. When we are able to stop it, it would help to a very large extent. But generally, I think the most important way to deal with it on a sustainable basis is addressing the human insecurity.
Right.
There has never ever been a military solution to any conflict situation in any part of the world.
Right.
Be it in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Right.
There has never, ever, even in Ukraine, been a military solution to anything. So let nobody think that the deployment of military or police personnel to that area is going to bring peace. No, they might stop fighting today, tomorrow they will fight again. We need to deal with it on a sustainable basis. How? Addressing those human insecurities.
ADIB, it's so sad that and this is happening. Let me just ask, last but not the least question. I mean, have you ever picked any intelligence that we having some influx of Al Shabaab or the Delta, those external terrorist group having a hold in what is just about to escalate? Have you picked any intelligence on that?
Okay. Okay, so Al Shabaab is far from us. Al Shabaab are usually pronounced in Somalia, Kenya, those areas, and their affiliates are also active on the ground in Mozambique, especially in the Cabo Delgado province. All right, but here in Ghana, our biggest threat has to do with Jamal Nusra al-Islam al-Muslimin, who are very close to our border because they are active in Burkina Faso. They've staged attacks very close to Ghana. They've staged attacks in Ivory Coast and Togo. All right. Yeah. We also have some other groups, including ISIS in the Greater Sahara or ISIS in the Greater Sahel. What do you call Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. We have the Katiba Martina group, led by one Ahmad Diko, something like that. I've forgotten the full name. Who is hell bent on returning the West African province to the old Fulani Empire. Okay. All right. So all of these groups are threats to Ghana. This is in the wake of a report published by Pro-Mediation, a French NGO, that pointed to over 200 Ghanaians recruited by terrorists and trained, and they are back in our community. And I spoke with another speaker expert who said that is even a conservative figure because the number might even be more. And the same report points to terrorists running illegal mining sites in Ghana. All right? And not once, trucks impounded in Burkina Faso containing TNT, fertilizer, and other explosive making devices, where investigations conducted revealed that the vehicles came from Ghana. All right, so Ghana continuously is a major logistics supply hub for terrorists operating within our enclave. And that is disturbing. Okay, even though we remain the country that hasn't been touched by the terrorism scourge, that it is certainly something we need to pay attention to and not be complacent about.
Right. I mean, thank you so much for this depth. But let me just ask one last question. Do we still have the French troops around is it Burkina Faso? Do we still have them around, or they've been driven away? The French troops?
Yeah. We still have some, but they've been asked to leave. In Mali they've left, but there will still be some remnants, and they moved to Ivory Coast. Okay, now the Russians are filling the vacuum in Burkina Faso and, of course, in Mali. And that is what we are seeing play out in other countries as well, including the Central African Republic, where the Wagner operates there. In Sudan, they are also there. Many other countries around.
Thank you so much, ADIB. ADIB is a senior security couple, and he's the executive director of JATIKAY Center for Peace and Building. ADIB, when it comes to security, you are the first person I have to call, and I just want you to know that thank you so much. But let's see what happens by next week. If nothing happens or something happens, I'm going to call you and bring you back on the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm always around.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Say hello to Madame for me and the children.
I will.
Okay. Thank you.
I will.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was our big brother, ADIB SAANI, Executive Director for JATIKAY Center for Peace and Building, and he's giving us a depth knowledge about what is happening in BAWKU between the Kusasis and the Mamprosis. I want to, you guys hold on, I want to call Dr. Emmanuel Probande, who's going to be my last guest on the show, for him to also give me his specs about what is happening in that region. God bless you.